What do you picture when you think of a long-distance relationship? The modern image of long-distance relationships involves video calls, plane tickets if you can afford it, and mailing gifts to each other. But do you know how old long-distance relationships actually are? Because they're much older than you think. They're older than both of the world wars, because many soldiers would write letters back home to their loved ones. And I've also gotten the opportunity to read letters Civil War soldiers wrote home to their wives and girlfriends from the front lines. So long-distance relationships are at least 200 years old, but they go back even farther. For as long as people have been able to write, people have written to their loved ones while they're away on extended trips from home. And the story I'm about to share with you today is probably one of the oldest stories we have of a long-distance relationship. The subject of today's video is a story that's over 2,000 years old, and it comes from Han Dynasty China. It's the love story of Jinu and Niulang, and it's the origin of Chinese Valentine's Day, aka the Qixi festival. Consider supporting me on Patreon or Ko-fi. You'll find the links below. Thank you. Quick disclaimer, because this story is so old, it has multiple versions, and some versions may be a little bit different from others you've heard. I'll do my best to tell the story as authentically as I can, and if you're curious, my sources are in the description below. Now, our story begins in heaven, with one of the Jade Emperor's daughters, Jinu. Jinu was a talented weaver, and she went down to Earth sometimes to perform bureaucratic duties. While on one earthly visit, Jinu sees a man, and she falls head over heels in love with him. That man is not a god though, and he's not a fantastic warrior or an epic king. He's just a regular farmer mortal guy named Niulang. Jinu knows that their love would be forbidden. Gods aren't allowed to marry mortals according to the laws of heaven. So what does Jinu do? She leaves heaven without telling anyone, and she dips down to Earth. Jinu introduces herself to Niulang, and the two of them fall madly in love. And in some versions, they even start a family together and have 2 children. It takes a few years before the Jade Emperor realizes that his daughter is gone. And that may sound like bad parenting, but in his defense, he has like thousands of children. Plus, he rules over all of heaven, so he's probably got loads of meetings to attend to. Eventually, the Jade Emperor realizes one of his daughters is gone, and that's not good. Remember, Jinu is a weaver, and not only does she weave the clothing for all the gods in heaven, she also weaves the clouds for Earth, so without her, the rain will eventually stop coming, and famines will begin. Yeah, at first you're like, oh, what's the harm with her leaving and falling in love? But then you learn she does have some responsibility for the weather, and suddenly you're like, oh no. At this point, the Jade Emperor, although in some versions it's his wife, the Jade Empress, searches all over heaven, but he can't find his daughter, so he turns his sights towards Earth. The Jade Emperor starts scanning the Earth looking for Jinu, and eventually he found her living with a mortal man and children. The Jade Emperor was outraged that his daughter would marry a mortal, and he went down to Earth to confront her. The Jade Emperor arrived on Earth and made quite the first impression with his son-in-law and his grandkids by literally ripping their mother out from their home and back up to heaven. Jinu tried fighting back, but she was no match for her father, and he successfully brought her back into the heavenly palace. Then, to make sure she'd never leave again, the Jade Emperor created a river of stars in the sky to separate Jinu from her family, and we can see this barrier he made in the night sky. It's the Arc of the Milky Way. Alone and back in heaven, Jinu wept over the separation, and her cries were heard across the universe. It's not known for how long she cried, but eventually, some birds came to her rescue. On the 7th day of the 7th month of the lunar calendar, thousands of magpies flew into formation, and they made a bridge out of their own bodies that was able to stretch across the arc of the Milky Way. Using this bridge, Jinu was able to reunite with her husband and her children. The family was overjoyed to be together again, but Jinu knew this couldn't last forever. The magpies grew tired, and if she tried escaping to Earth again, her father would just take her back to heaven. So Jinu and Niulang made a promise to each other. They promised to meet again on this bridge every year on the same day so that they could be together again for at least one day. And that's exactly what they did. Every year on the 7th day of the 7th month, that anniversary became known as the Qixi festival, aka Chinese Valentine's Day. Usually, with long-distance relationships, they start when 2 people meet but live in different areas, but eventually you move in together after an undetermined amount of time. But not these two, no. Unfortunately for them, they spent a lot of time living together and then had to be separated, which definitely sucks, but it didn't last forever. Don't forget, Niu Lang was a mortal man, and at some point he died. But thanks to this story, he's become something like a god. This story is remembered and celebrated by over 1 billion people every year, and he's even been immortalized in the sky, represented by the star of Vega. By the way, if you're curious, Jinnu is represented by the star Altair, and the Qixi festival marks the time of year when these two stars are the closest to each other in the sky. People from all over the world celebrate these two lovers being reunited again and again, year after year. Though they may have to spend a lot of time apart, that one day they get to be together again makes it all worth it. And that's the story of the Qixi festival. Some traditions of the Qixi festival include things like romantic dinners, gifts, date nights, and other classic romance stuff. As I mentioned previously, in the West we call it Chinese Valentine's Day, and after hearing this story I'm sure you can see why it's a holiday meant to celebrate romantic love. And for me personally, it's one of my favorite stories from any mythology, not just Chinese mythology. It's a sweet tale of two lovers who managed to keep their love alive despite the long distance. And having gone through a long distance relationship in the past myself, I really admire the love and dedication these two have for each other. It's such a beautiful story, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, thank you so much for doing so. Why don't you leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more mythology videos. I have a Discord where I share memes and updates on future videos that I'm working on, and I also have several methods of financially supporting me below. So until next time, Qixi 快乐